Thanks for just letting us know. So let's get started. Yeah, so 30 minutes to help you deliver more meaningful, measurable marketing. Before we dive into the main session today, just going to walk you through a few slides just to introduce myself and the guest speaker today. So I'm Dan Aston, I'm the marketing manager here at Crowd Control HQ, and I'm delighted to be joined by Lizzie Dixon. So Lizzie's actually the Global Communities Manager at the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. Hey Lizzie, thanks for joining.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Always welcome. So I'm just going to quickly whiz through a few slides. If this is the first time that you've joined us, first time you sort of engaging with Crowd Control HQ. So who are we and what do we do, and yeah, how do we help? So Crowd Control HQ, we're one of the UK's leading social media management platforms. And there's three things that we do in essence. And one is around helping you engage your social media audiences. So if your team, your organization, you're challenged with engaging and building relationships with customers, prospects, residents, community members, any other stakeholders, Crowd Control HQ helps you do that and helps you build more valuable relationships on social media. It also takes the complexity out of social media, so you can manage all your social media in one place. So whether you're doing sort of marketing and comms, or whether it's customer service, or it's risk and compliance management, you've got multiple accounts, multiple teams, multiple users, multiple objectives. You can handle that at scale easily, all in one place. And lastly, sorry folks, I'm just getting a note that you might not be able to see the slides. How are we looking right now? Are you guys just seeing the hold screen at the moment, the first screen? Lizzie, do you see the first screen, or do you see the...
I can see the whole screen with your notes and everything, not just the PowerPoint.
Right, let me just try and fix this 1 second before we go. Sorry about this, folks.
I can see your screen now.
Ah, there we go. The gremlins have snuck in, or I didn't click the right button. So anyway, let's carry on. And the last point, yeah, so if analytics and reporting is your bag, then you can analyze your social media performance and your team performance and the performance of your content, and easily report and drill down on like what's really working well, and where there's opportunities actually, where do you need to spend more time and effort, and where can you improve. So in a nutshell, appreciate you have some problems with the slides there. In a nutshell, that's how we can help. And on the screen here, you can then see a few logos just to help explain some of the organizations that we work with. So we work with many different organizations in the UK from both the public sector and private sector. And we're delighted to be able to work with these organizations. Okay, so hopefully if that's the only bug that we come across today, I'll be very happy, because we're about to jump into the main chunk of today's session, which is Lizzie, and she's going to be talking to you about meaningful and measurable marketing. So over to you, Lizzie. So let me see.
Thank you very much. So yeah, today is just a top line overview of meaningful and measurable marketing. Whenever I talk to anyone within our business or other businesses or other marketers, I say for me, marketing has to be three things. First of all, it has to be meaningful. Second of all, measurable. And third of all, it has to feed into our business objectives. So this presentation today is focused on social media, because obviously Crowd Control, fantastic social media company, and I presume you guys predominantly work in social media as well. So if I move to our first slide.
Have you got that? You should have the control. There we go. Brilliant.
Yeah, here we go. So 5 steps to success. First of all, you need to consider what are your business objectives. It's so important to understand your business objectives, because everything you do should feed into those, and that should ensure your continued pipeline of activity. Secondly is, how do our products or your products and services feed into the business objectives? There's no point in doing anything if it doesn't help you meet that overall business objectives. There's no point of having a certain product. There's no point about talking about a certain thing just because. So always make sure everything you do feeds into your business objectives. The next one is, how can our marketing strategy support the success of those business objectives? So what are you doing from a comms and marketing perspective to support those products and services that helps you feed into your business objectives? Is our output measurable? All marketing needs to be measurable. We all know this. There's no point of doing anything if you can't measure its success. And lastly, what does everything we're doing mean to our audience? There's no point in doing anything if it's not going to resonate with your audience or with your target market. So make sure everything you're doing is meaningful. And I guess that's the main focus of the webinar today, is to talk about how can you make sure what you're doing is meaningful and measurable. I think it's always important as well to have a look at your organisation and the way everything is structured and who you've got communicating with each other. A lot of organisations I find have something that I like to call the missing middle. So you have the people at the top who really understand the business objectives and why that's important. You have the people at the bottom. When I say the bottom, I don't mean the literal bottom. Who understand how to communicate with people, understand your audience, but you often find that the people at the bottom don't understand necessarily how what they're doing feeds directly into the business objectives or aren't quite sure what they are. You also find the people at the top understand what our business objectives are, but not how to actually communicate them and actually make them happen. So it's important that everyone's informed, they understand what's happening and they understand how it's happening. So communication and stakeholder management is key when it comes to meaningful and measurable marketing. So first thing I wanted to look at is the marketing funnel. It's really important that you understand the marketing funnel. It's a little bit different for everyone, but the way this works for me is awareness, consideration, purchase, and advocacy. So advocates, obviously, that's your nirvana. That's where you want to be. An advocate will do the work for you. They amplify all the activity you do. They're impartial, so they're trusted, and they're influential within their own network, the people who trust them. So that's their end goal, not just a purchase, but a brand advocate. Or when I say purchase, that could be a downloaded form, whatever that is to meet your business objectives. So it's really important to understand your marketing funnel, to understand your pipeline, and understand that because you want to know where your sticking points are. Which part of your marketing activity fits where into your pipeline. You might be at the point where you've created all this awareness and you want people to purchase, but you've missed out that consideration stage. Not everyone is going to purchase straight away, especially when you're talking about social media. So with social media, you're unlikely to get a straight conversion when it comes to high value products or something that's really important, but what you would get is an assisted conversion. And when I talk about assisted conversions, I talk about are they the first step within that journey, that user journey within that pipeline, or are they one of the last 3 steps? Are they helping make that decision? So social media just sit firmly within that awareness and consideration stage. So it's really important to make sure you consider every step, not just awareness, not just purchase, but that consideration as well, and make sure you're covering everything with that. I've mapped out several activities that I believe fits in different parts of these pipelines, but as I said, it's different for everyone. But do check that out. Maybe after the webinar, have a read through, see what you think. Let me know if you think I've missed anything there as well.
Do you know what? I think it's really interesting because this fits very well with the logic, or there's a stat, and I forget where it comes from, but there's a stat that says that you need to sort of engage or touch someone or reach someone 6 or 7 times before they will take the step that you want them to take, whether it's purchasing or signing up or what it is, because they need to become familiar and understand that you're like reliable and trustworthy.
And those
just to get ingrained.
Those touch points might be across several different platforms. You might receive an email, you might visit the website, and then you've got the cookies following you, and then you see ads for something, and then you see a social media post. Everything needs to join together. There's no such thing as just a social media strategy. There's a marketing strategy, and that's made up of all the different channels in which you can reach someone, which I'll move on to in a second, actually. So we've got to think about planning. Planning ahead is so important. No effective marketing is ever done by firefighting. By mapping your products and your services and how they feed into your business objectives is the key to success for me. So you have your communication at the bottom here. Then the next level is your products and services. So how are you communicating what you're trying to do? How is that fitting into your product and services? How are you getting people to want to invest in your product or services? And how do those products and services then feed into your business objectives? It's going back to the first slide there. And mapping those products and services and how they feed in, it's just, like I say, it's key for success. And how does all those things feed into your funnel? Where do they feed into the funnel? Where does that activity sit? If we have a look at what are your buying cycles for consumers, do people tend to buy 8 weeks out from something? Do people tend to buy when it correlates with something going on in the world or a political event or something like that? Make sure you know what those cycles are. When do they enter the beginning of that funnel and when do they exit at the end? How long is that process? Because you need to have effective time to market to people. So it's really important that you benchmark that process. What do you have going on when? So do you have, for example, we have a Brexit conference. So it's really important for us to know, okay, so we have this Brexit conference. Do we have a product maybe that matches up with the kind of people who would be attending that Brexit conference? Are we looking at, do we have a product for import-export, for example? That's a key subject around Brexit. So the people who attend a Brexit conference might be interested in import-export. So there's no point in having a look at all these different products and services as one separate entity, because audiences do often overlap. And I guess the dream is to have the most impact with the least amount of activity. And I guess that's a dream for all of us marketers. So it's really important that when possible, we can map out all of our products and services together, look for the cross-promotional opportunities, and look at where the audience actually crosses over. So knowing your audience, very important. As marketers, we should never, ever produce blanket style messaging. If it doesn't mean something to you, you're not going to do anything about it. So it's a pointless message in the first place. User behaviors and interests, we need to monitor them in order to be able to segment successfully. Because like I say, everything we do should be meaningful and relevant to our audience. I guess a good example for us would be, we have a product called the World Built Environment Forum. And within that, we send emails to all of our key stakeholders, but we actually map out the click data and the interactions from that, because that's important to know who's actually clicking on these links, what kind of links are they, what kind of content does that lead to. If I know SMEs are interested in a specific type of content, I can then use that to target them on social media. So I can target them through the targeting tools that Crowd Control have and through native social media as well, which we'll move on to as well. If I know senior professionals like a piece of content and they are my target market and they will help me reach my business objectives, I want to be targeting them. I don't want to be just sending blanket style messaging to everyone. So if we move on to the targeting tools I just mentioned, a good example of targeting through social media, I would say, is the ROCS LinkedIn page. So we have 99,000 followers on there from across the globe. We may have our HQ in London, but we do have offices everywhere from Singapore to Toronto to Australia, Africa. We're everywhere. And what we don't want to do is advertise a training event in Cardiff to people in India or even in London, because it's not relevant to them. We don't want to have an event for senior leaders and target that to entry-level people, because again, might not be relevant to them, and it's a turn off. People stop checking your page and engaging with your brand when they feel it's not relevant to them. So we actually worked with Crowd Control on their LinkedIn targeting tool, and thank you very much for that. They understood that it was imperative to our business objectives to be able to target. So that's really helped us. But I thought I'd just put an example of targeting on here. So on LinkedIn and on Facebook as well, they're the two pages where you can target based on interest, based on who people are. So on the example on the left, we have a post where we only want English speaking people in the UK to see our post, and actually made up 45,000 people with our network. We can dig deeper in that as well. We can say we want senior people, or a lot of our products as well in, let's say, Singapore, they are English speaking products as well, so that's a really good tool to narrow down the pages and the people who can actually understand our products and services as well. Facebook, like I say, you can log into that and you can target people based on their interests. So that's really helped for us, especially we were doing a social media audit when I first started here, and we had so many pages globally. And this really helped me have a business case to say, actually, let's condense our social media. We don't need 6 pages on LinkedIn. We do not need 12 Facebook pages, because we can target people. So we merge them together, and now we have a stronger following, which helps with us targeting people in the first place.
Makes a lot of sense, because actually with that, if instead of having, you know, a local LinkedIn page, for example, for each of your regions,
yeah,
and you have to drive audiences to those different pages, you can just drive them all to one page, right? And then you build the following around one page. So then it's like delivering more value. And then, as you were saying, just tailor the content that's being posted for that single page.
It makes it easier for not only us to direct our followers to the right place, but for them to find the right place to be. So they always know where to go to get the messages that they want to hear, essentially, which is important for any brand. That sums up the meaningful part of our presentation, but I think we should move on to measurable, she says. So I love this quote. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That there's no point of doing something if it's not giving you the result that you want it to. It's so important that everything we do is measurable. I guess a good example of this would be if I posted something on LinkedIn and I posted that on Twitter. Twitter might generate me 100 click-throughs to our website, but only 1 purchase. And then LinkedIn, I might only get 20 click-throughs, but I might have 6 purchases. So I know where my time is best spent to generate the results I'm looking for. So that helps me be more effective as a marketer. It doesn't mean that I won't necessarily post on both channels, but if I need to boost some marketing or some targeting, then I will choose the channel that's most effective for me. So this is my scale when it comes to social media stats and stats in general of what I care about. So I put the least important stats for me personally at the top and the most important stats at the bottom. Reach and impressions. So what if 40,000 people have seen my post if no one does anything about it? It doesn't really matter. It's a nice to have. It's something that we know that, okay, so people are seeing what we're doing, great. But again, you have to do the so what test with these things. Like, someone's liked my post, so it means something to them. Great. They've liked it, but they haven't done anything else with it. So it doesn't mean enough to them for them to share it, to comment on it. Comment. So comments are great because you get to see people's points of views. They care enough to respond to you, but do they care enough to do an action? The action starts when it comes to sharing. So someone has cared enough about what you're doing to click share. That's important. That's them starting to be that advocate for what you're doing. But when it comes to social media, what we care about is the click through. We want to see how many people are clicking to our page, because click through is where they do the action. Everything we do should lead back to that one point, which is the website. So important that we can measure end to end when it comes to our stats. So time spent on page is my next thing. You might have loads of people clicking through, but they might drop off in under 10 seconds. That's pointless to any of us. But that means we can have a look, okay, well, we're getting people clicking through, but are they not getting what they're expecting? Is it not clear what they have to do next once they're there? And that's when you can start having a look at, okay, well, where are the problems in what I'm doing in my activity? So you can go back and fix those things. Again, the nirvana, the dream, they complete the required action. So that might be a purchase, that might be downloading something, that might be answering a survey, or whatever that is. We want people to do that action. It's also important that you know your averages throughout this process, because if you don't know your average, how do you know if you're on track? How do you know if you're doing well? But it's really important that we have a look at the end-to-end. And again, like I said at the beginning, there's no such thing as a social strategy. There's a marketing strategy, and everything we're doing needs to feed into that and feed into the overall objective, which feeds into our business objective. So just by siloing and looking at the social media stats, you're not going to get the information you need to be successful. They're important, but so are the web stats. So make sure you're looking at those as well.
What I love about this, Lizzie, it really gets across the idea that it's quality over quantity, you know, from your perspective here, and that actually you need to be able to measure this stuff as well, like, because that's how you know that you're doing the right things in the right places.
Exactly. All marketing needs to be measurable. It's the first thing we learn as marketers, but sometimes it's something that we forget because it's so easy to get in the rhythm of doing things, getting the everyday stuff done. But how is all of this everyday stuff that you're doing feeding into your overall objectives? So I'll just move on to the next slide. Okay, so measurement of success can not only help you meet your objectives, but it's good for stakeholder management and setting clear expectations of what success looks like. This goes on to this missing middle part that I spoke about at the beginning. It's really important that we can find out what success looks like from our internal stakeholders, and we can measure and show that we are reaching whatever that success looks like to them. So that's why it's important to have a look at all of those different stages when it comes to your marketing, your likes, your comments, your shares, your click-throughs, your time spent on page, because to reach those objectives, you need to know where you're going wrong, or if you're going wrong at all. Hopefully you're not. One of the worst things that anyone can say to me, and I'm sure it drives everyone else a little bit crazy as well, is, we're doing this for brand awareness. What does this mean? Why are you doing this for brand awareness? So why? We want to achieve brand awareness because we want people to, and we will measure this how. This is what we need to know. Brand awareness is pointless unless you know what you're raising your brand awareness for, essentially. So in this case, I guess the easiest and most basic way you could put this is, we want to achieve brand awareness because we want people to buy our products. We will measure this by increased traffic onto our website and purchases in X time frame. That's the most basic way you can put it, and we can dig a lot deeper in that. But brand awareness has to have a purpose. If anyone's asking you to do anything for brand awareness, always ask the question why. Why is so important. It's one of the most important questions we can ask as marketers. So move on to my next. Followers, quality, more important than quantity. People set targets to themselves because they want to increase their followers. But why? It's important to have the right followers. I would rather have 50 followers on my social channels who do what I need them to do than 10,000 who don't. So there's no point of setting yourself an objective just to increase your followers. So we want to increase X amount of followers. We want X amount of followers who are. We want X amount of followers who are because, and we want X amount of followers who are because this will help our reach our business objective of. So in context, that would be, we want 5,000 followers who are engaged C-suite professionals, because in my case, this will help us reach our business objective of being influential within the built environment space. So it's not okay just to say increase your followers. You need to know who they are and why you want them there and what you want to do with them once they are there. So this next slide was actually provided to me by our head of communications, Liz. You don't have to be a Lizzie to work here, or a Liz, but it is helpful apparently. So I really like this because this is the way that you measure your communications and success of them. So your input, the resources you put behind a campaign, what do you want to spend, how many people are working on it, and what time can they dedicate to it. So this is essentially your supply. Your output, the activity you do generate, how many posts, tweets, retweets, etc., etc. And this is your demand. So is the supply you're putting in reaching the demand? Okay. Then your outtake, the response and reactions of your target audience to the activity. For me, this is sentiment. This is qualitative data. Outcome, the effect of the communications on the audience, behaviors, awareness, attitude, increased understanding. This is your quantitative data. So this is something you can associate a number to. Organizational impact. How has this fed into your business objectives? How has this impacted your organization's goals and reaching them? So input is your supply, output is your demand, outtake is your sentiment, your qualitative data, outcome is your quantitative data, and organizational impact is your business objectives. I really recommend you take a look at this, and whenever you're doing a campaign, you use this. So you go through it and say, by putting in this input, this will be our output. Even if you're just wrapping up a campaign, have a look back. How does this fit in with what you've done? Have you missed anything? Is there something you can learn from this? So this is, out of everything in this presentation, I would say this is the one slide I would take away and really utilize within your role. So UTM links, I'm sure we've all heard of UTM links, but just for those who haven't, a UTM link is a universal tracking mechanism. So this is used for any of your own brand assets. So you have your URL and you add something onto the end of that that says, the source of my post was on LinkedIn. Our medium was social media, so social, because that's how Google registers it. And our campaign in this case was 150. So we had our 150th birthday last year, and that's where this is from. So all brand assets need UTM codes. So that could be email, social media, that could be banner ads on third-party websites, because Google Analytics, without this, will show you so much information. But having a UTM on the back of your URL will help Google Analytics dig down that little bit deeper. So you've got people coming to your website from social media, but which social media channel and which post? If you've worded your post differently, say on Twitter where you cannot necessarily target people, but you've put 3 different versions of your post out to get someone to do an action, you want to know which one is resonating best with that audience and causing those conversions. So UTMs are great. We have an Excel sheet actually that easily generates UTM links. So if anyone would like that, get in contact with me after and I can provide that for you. It's very easy to use. I love it personally. So nearly at the end here. So campaign tags. This is one of my favorite features on crowd control actually. Like I said, it's so important to measure end to end, not just your social media stats, not just your web stats, but what's happening across that. So in the example here, we've got a post going out. I believe this was International Women's Day on diversity and inclusion. If you look on the right-hand side, that's actually a campaign tag in crowd control we've created. So not only can we then go on crowd control and we can say, okay, I want to know how well in the past 1 week we've done on Twitter. I also want to know how well our diversity and inclusion conversation has gone down on Twitter, so we can filter that way. And that's so helpful for us because not only can we now filter that on the website through our UTMs, but we can also filter on our actual social media. So we get that end-to-end picture of what's working and what's not. Like I said, favorite feature, absolutely love it. I really, really hope that you're all using that when you're posting through crowd control. It's very easy to do. Once you write your post, click next and you can choose your campaign tag from the drop down once you've added it.
Love it, Lizzie. It just really drills home. Sorry, Lizzie, it just really drills home. We spend, as marketers and comms people, we spend so much time creating content, creating campaigns,
a lot of doing,
recording videos, doing all the busy work, and then it is actually a shame if you can't track the outcomes from all of that effort and time and brain power that we've put into creating that kind of content. So really love this. It's great.
Yeah, favorite feature, absolutely love it. Everyone knows I'm a big advocate. I'm at the advocate stage when it comes to crowd control, but this is one of my favorite features on the platform. And yeah, that's it from me. Thank you all very much for watching and listening to me. Please do let me know if you have any questions. And get in touch with me after the webinar. You can find me on LinkedIn, Lizzie with an IE, not a Y, Dixon. Get in touch, we can discuss any of this in more detail, or if you want to take this conversation beyond social media, I'm happy to have a chat with you.
Awesome, Lizzie. Like I knew it was going to be a good session because I know you, but it was, and there was so many little valuable takeaways, I think, for this. Right. And some things even got me thinking, you forget elements, don't you, if you don't sort of revisit it or put it into practice yourself often.
Exactly.
And also it's good to just get that peace of mind that, okay, so what we're doing is what others are doing as well, and because it works, it's the right thing to do. So guys, if you're on the line, so if you've got any questions, do submit it into the little questions box. And I think we've got think we're good for sort of 5 minutes, hopefully, Lizzie,
Yeah,
for some
absolutely.
questions. So if there's anything in the session today that you're interested in learning more about, like a question for Lizzie, question for me, just submit it into the question box. I'm going to have a quick look now. I can see here's a couple that have come through already. So one for you, I think, Lizzie. What are your tips for segmenting your audience in the first place? Like, I guess, how do you get started? Like, how do you think about it in the first place?
I would say start with understanding what you want to achieve, because you need to know what the goal is by segmenting this audience before you start. Have a look at job titles, seniority, location. Make sure I have my data list. I can filter that. I can go down and have a look at that through our CRM system. And again, it depends what you want to achieve and who you're talking to. But yeah, have a look at segmenting via location, seniority, people working in the same place as well. You might have, or the same industry rather, you might not know it, but you've got a big following in, I'd say the construction industry, but I guess that's obvious in our case. But yeah, know exactly who they are. Just get to know your audience and how they feed into what you do.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess there's different levels to it. Some are quite straightforward. Obviously, for you, you're a global organization, so one easy way to segment and slice your followers and your audience is just location or language.
Location, language,
yeah.
Exactly.
And then within that, I guess there's another level. If it's relevant, you can go down, like
exactly.
the seniority.
Seniority, exactly. Industry as well. Sometimes you just might want to put a message out a couple of times written slightly differently depending on seniority. So yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Just gonna quickly check. So do you think there's a place for reactive content as well as fully planned campaigns to drive results? Absolutely.
It's always important to be agile, and not just because you need to measure it, and if something's not working, you need to react to that and do something else. But there's a lot of things going on in the world. There's a lot of political events. We react to budget statements, that kind of thing. It's always important to have a plan, but yeah, sometimes you do need to be agile.
Yeah.
Just make sure you measure this agility as well.
Yes. Yeah. To make sure you're getting the response you're expecting from the more
so next time you have to be agile, you don't do the same activity if it's not going to work.
So will a copy of the slides and recording be provided? Yes, folks. Yeah, so that will be sent out relatively shortly afterwards. So if you need to like run through the slides again or share it with your colleagues, please do so. Yeah, you'll have those details, and the recording will be shared with you afterwards. So yeah, it's an interesting one. So I've heard different takes on this. So do you think Twitter still has a strong impact in terms of marketing? I've got a perception, so I'll
yeah, well, it depends who you're talking to. Yeah, it depends who you're talking to, and depends again what you're wanting to achieve. I think it's good for influencers as such, so people with the blue tick, and it's good for companies as well. If you're doing a lot of B2B marketing, I think Twitter is a strong channel, not quite as strong as LinkedIn. But yeah, I think there is still a market for Twitter. Will there be in the next 10 years? I don't think so, because a lot of their key features, such as hashtagging, now LinkedIn are collating and collecting all of their content via hashtags as well. And the fact that currently we can't target using Twitter. It's good for a succinct message. But yeah, do I think they'll be around in 10 years? No, but right now, keep using them.
So it's interesting because I think Twitter is great. I'm a Twitter user, but I use it more as to consume content rather than to share or sort of build up a following. And I think it's actually very good for customer service. I think if you're not doing B2B and you're doing B2C, Twitter is still a fantastic channel, and I don't see it going anywhere just yet. So I would be very reluctant to start moving away from it. But one of the first things you said, Lizzie, is like, who is your audience? Like, who are you trying to get to? And what are the social media sort of engagements and interactions and relationships that you're trying to build with those people? And that's where Twitter does come into its own, because it is very good at quite fast-paced like updates.
Exactly. it's good for accountability for a business. How reactive you are and how transparent you are when talking to your clients or other businesses.
Yeah, but then one thing you touched on as well, which was like comparing it to LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is excellent for B2B. So if you're working in the B2B space, LinkedIn is like, it has come along quite a long way, like the last 6 months, 12 months. And I think there's a lot more engagement there than if you haven't been sort of engaged on LinkedIn recently. Definitely check it out because it seems to be growing. They're introducing some new features and whatnot, which keeps people coming back to LinkedIn a little bit more than perhaps they used to.
Exactly.
So here's an interesting one. Do you think that using the Facebook targeting helps to get around their algorithm?
I'm
not sure you can get around the algorithm,
no.
but I think what targeting really helps you to do is to improve the engagement rate that you get from a specific post. So if you publish a bit of content, take your use case, Lizzie, where you've got different languages. So if you're posting a post in French on a Facebook page where you've got the majority of like English speaking audience, you're already limiting yourself like in terms of the engagement rate, how many people are going to respond to it. So Facebook are looking for, okay, in that initial period of time, what percentage of the audience have responded to it? That's one of the things that they look at. So by targeting, you make that content more relevant to a group or a select audience. So then the more relevant it is, the more likely they are to engage with it, which then should help actually with the algorithm, because it looks like, oh, well, this is a really relevant piece of content that's been shared, and then let's share it to more people.
It becomes meaningful. It helps you cut through the noise. And Facebook are actually changing that algorithm all the time. There's talk at the moment they're going to start ranking content based on how relevant it is to the audience. So targeting now and getting that habit is really going to help.
Yeah, awesome, interesting. So, sorry if there's any background noise. The rain's quite heavy at the moment. Another couple of questions, just to run through real quick. Okay, so Lizzie, which social media channel do you get most interaction on?
That is, I guess, that's a difficult question. So LinkedIn does well for us, Twitter does well for us, Facebook maybe not so much, Instagram maybe not so much. But again, it depends on what kind of content we're generating as a business and at what time and what we're trying to achieve. LinkedIn is very strong though. We can get 100 likes on a post, and we do get people sharing our content. My phone and Nick, our social media manager, it's constantly going off all day, every day, all evening. You can just hear that ding, 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 ding across all of our channels. We do have about 10 different channels going on at the moment because of different Twitters globally. Then we've got our groups. It really depends what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. And then there's just an addition to that, and then / the completion of the required action. So I guess like we're going back to your sliding scale of like what's meaningful and the completion of the required action.
Yeah.
Do you see a trend there, or
LinkedIn for us, because a lot of we are a professional organisation, and we are the governing body for the surveying industry. So we are talking to individuals who are members of RICS. So LinkedIn is the perfect channel for us.
Cool. Well, I think that's all our questions. So Lizzie, I just want to say a massive thank you. I thought this session was like really interesting. I hope everyone who's joining today found it really interesting as well. Before you jump off, I just want to make a little quick announcement. So it's the first time we're sharing this exciting news with you. So we have an event coming up in June. So please just save the date in your calendar. We'll start to communicate with you very soon, more details, but it's called Inspired Social, and it's the place to come if you're a brand or you're managing social or you're involved in social, and you can come and learn and listen and get inspired, pick up new skills and help enable your social media strategies for your team and your organization. And we've got some really exciting expert speakers coming up. So please save the date and we'll be in touch very soon with more details. So look out for that. And again, Lizzie, big thanks.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Perfect. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a great day. I'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.